OI was the name given to a proposed series of Japanese super heavy tanks to be used in the Pacific Theater. The vehicle was planned to have a crew of 11. The complete history of the project is little known, but its development started in the late 1930s. The defeat suffered by the Japanese Imperial Army in the area of Khalkhin Gol in 1939 affected the Japanese Army High Command like a cold, sobering shower. The Japanese generals realized that the troops entrusted to them were significantly behind the Red Army in terms of weapons, and took a number of measures. One of the initiatives was a project to create super heavy tanks, which had not been developed by the Japanese before. By 1939, Japanese engineers had not yet started designing truly heavy tanks, since there were no orders from the military. Tank designers had doubts about whether they had enough knowledge and experience to design a super heavy tank within the narrow time frame specified by the military, but they apparently believed that the lack of knowledge of the designers should be compensated by the samurai spirit. In 1939, an outstanding military figure, Colonel Hideo Iwakuro, was appointed head of the Department of Army in the Japanese Ministry of Defense. Before his appointment to the post, Iwakuro was engaged in intelligence activities, establishing the production of counterfeit foreign banknotes, censoring the diplomatic mail of foreign embassies and consulates, training and deploying saboteurs, and also supervised the puppet Chinese government in Nanjing. After his appointment, Iwakuro's responsibilities began to include establishing the development of the latest types of weapons, including tanks. Until 1939, Japanese industry did not produce heavy vehicles. Earlier Japanese engineers designed and assembled one prototype of the 18-ton Type 2591 tank, which was not actually heavy, although the Japanese considered it so. By 1935, its design was reworked, resulting in the birth of the 26-ton, three-turreted Type 2595 vehicle with 30 to 35 mm frontal armor. It carried 70 mm main armament. But the project did not progress beyond the construction of 4 prototypes. Now the new head of the department demanded that Mitsubishi Corporation engineers create a completely new tank weighing 100 tons as soon as possible. Iwakuro told the engineers the following: "I want you to design a huge tank that could be used as a mobile bunker on the wide open plains of Manchuria. Make it twice the size of existing tanks." The project was assigned the military index OI, based on the first letters of the words Big First. The project of a super heavy tank took shape. The engineers' ideas were materialized in the form of drawings on paper, and then realized in metal in the workshops of the Mitsubishi concern. In the end, the documentation set was ready. The designed machine turned out to be grandiose, and the military were pleased. As it seemed then, all that was left to do was for this colossus to confirm its ability to move independently. To do this, it had to be embodied in metal. The tank was again to be equipped with a Type 92 105mm cannon for its main gun. Its 2 smaller front hull turrets were designed to be offset slightly left from the midpoint. One turret was designed to carry a Type 147mm tank gun as secondary armament. The other turret was to carry a 7.7mm machine gun. The rear hull was designed to have 2 more smaller turrets each, with a machine gun. One of the main features of the OI tank was its thick armor. Its armor had a maximum thickness of up to 200mm, as well as 35mm plus 75mm plates on its sides and 150mm at the back. The tank was to have 2 V-12 petrol-fueled aircraft engines designed by BMW in Germany and licensed to Kawasaki Heavy Industries in Japan. If the tank had participated in real battles, it would have been extremely difficult for its commander to effectively manage this entire team, as was proven by the operation of the Soviet T-35 with crews of 10 people. For testing, the tank was delivered to a training ground, located in Kanagawa Prefecture on the island of Honshu. Only personnel involved in the development and construction of the prototype were allowed to be transported, and the contours of the tank were hidden under a huge shapeless tarpaulin. Loading began at 2 in the morning and ended by dawn, and delivery of the tank to the training ground took 10 days. After a recent rainfall, the ground at the test site became soggy, so the 100-ton Colossus went far and got stuck, plunging into the mud to a depth of a meter. The driver's attempts to remove the vehicle on his own only worsened the situation. The tank buried itself even deeper in the ground, and its tracks jumped off the road wheels. With great difficulty, the tank was removed from the ground, washed off the dirt, tracks were put on it, and testing began on a hard surface. The second stage of testing turned out to be no less discouraging. When moving along a concrete road, pieces of the tracks began to fly off the tank, and the concrete under the tracks cracked. All these disappointing results led to the fact that further development of the 100-ton tank project was abandoned in 1940. The prototype was again covered with a tarpaulin and left until 1944, when it was finally dismantled for scrap. Perhaps it was this failure and hundreds of thousands of yen thrown down the drain that caused Colonel Iwakuro to be transferred to another service. In 1941 he was removed from the development of new weapons and appointed advisor to the ambassador to the United States. But in 1944, the Japanese military again returned to the idea of a super heavy tank. The hopeless situation on all fronts forced them to look for a miracle weapon that could save Japan from final defeat. An additional impetus for reviving the project was information about the Germans' development of the Maus tank. Mitsubishi engineers again took on the design of a super heavy vehicle. The weight of the tank was supposed to reach 120 tons. In the largest central turret, the designers placed the main armament, a 105mm Type 92 cannon. The weight of the entire artillery system was 5 tons. At a distance of up to 1000 m, the projectile could penetrate a sheet of armor 150mm thick. This gun was widely used by the Japanese as a field weapon, and its maximum firing range was 18 kilometers. Basic data on the design of the new tank coincide with the parameters of its 100-ton predecessor. However, all the engineers' efforts were in vain. Due to a shortage of funds and the rapid advance of the enemy towards the borders of Japan itself, the new project was abandoned without finishing it. Before Japan's surrender, all documentation at the Mitsubishi concern was destroyed. A tank track from the project is on display at the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force School in Japan. In the end, the complete history of the OI prototype is unknown due to the project's obscure nature and the limited documentation known to have survived post-war. This may be all that remains of the Japanese armored monster project. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and to make sure you don't miss my future work, please make sure you are subscribed to my channel and press the bell notification button. Thank you and see you in the next video.